So it's not just that we have the money to house these homeless people. It's not just that we have the money to create affordable housing for homeless people or low or working poor people. It's not just that if we didn't have these empty properties, we have the money to create properties. What we learned by leaving our studio and not doing clickbait bullshit was money is being stolen.
Fucking A, right? Fucking A.
There were hundreds of millions of dollars that was supposed to go to unemployment, rent relief for renters. The money was supposed to go to landlords as payment for the renter during the pandemic. And that money seems to be missing. This is a massive scandal. Similar things, I mean, not the same thing, but similar things happen with the PPP loan money, with wealthy plutocrats and corporations getting small business loans meant for actual small businesses. But we're uncovering, Steve, in Philly, in Cleveland, in Louisville, West Virginia, that the money that was supposed to go to renters, well, landlords have collected it, but they haven't actually used it for rental relief. In many cases, they've turned around, evicted the tenants with loopholes, because the federal moratorium only stops a landlord from evicting a tenant for non-payment. It doesn't stop. They could spin that you're being a nuisance, a lot of nuisance laws, noise complaints.
All grass.
You're not keeping the property up to code. Simply that your lease is up, so they don't resign your lease, and they have kicked. We were just talking to someone in Louisville that we're about to play the clip. He said during the heart of the pandemic, you're talking 200 to 300,000 cases a day, 2 to 3,000 people dying a day. He was in eviction court, 20 to 30 people every day in eviction court, many of them being evicted. That was in Louisville. Similar things are happening all over the country. So when we say there's an eviction apocalypse coming, well, the first cracks have already begun. Yeah. So that's the first scandal, that this federal moratorium, there's more loopholes than a roller coaster. Secondly, where is the money? Everybody's got it. All these corporate Democrats are meticulous when running against progressives. How are you going to pay for it? Medicare for all of these other things, which is obviously bullshit based on modern monetary theory. But they're not asking for an accounting of where is this money that the Democratic Party, Biden, earmarked. In fairness, it started under Trump as president, but hundreds of millions of dollars, possibly into the billions, that have been earmarked state to state for rental relief, vanished in thin air. On eviction specifically, Colin, if we could play the clip, I want to show you a clip from a conversation I had with Louisville. He's with the Root Cause Research Center, who they did something called the Eviction Laboratory, and they literally compiled data during the pandemic. It was hard to get of evictions. Let's hear what he had to say. By the way, 320 people watching. Smash that like button. It helps with getting more views. Like button under the live stream. Let's hear what he had to say.
And what we found essentially is that there is no eviction moratorium. The loopholes are so large that landlords were still able to evict based on a number of reasons. And so while landlords could not evict ostensibly for non-payment of rent, they could evict for all sorts of other reasons. Mm-hmm. And so what we found is a situation where capital was still moving in neighborhoods. We had massive bailouts for landlords. We had deferred mortgages. And so while capital was still moving, incomes were stalled or stagnant. And so it created a situation where a lot of landlords are now sitting on large reserves of capital, and they want to remodel their units. In order to remodel their units, they are participating in mass evictions. And so they're evicting their entire buildings so they can rehab those units and rent them for higher rents once COVID is over. Mm-hmm. And so what we found is while evictions decreased, we still had about 10% of the evictions that normally occur.
So, multiple things here. Number one, that's just the evictions that we know about in Louisville. He said 10%. They could not, they were fighting just to get the data from eviction courts and city government. It could be more than 10%. But even let's say 10%, that's potentially thousands of people that were evicted in Louisville during the pandemic. He didn't say it in that clip, including in January and February, which is freezing temperatures in Louisville. So again, we call it the other pandemic, Steve. Where is the reporting outrage on where is the billions of dollars that was supposed to go towards rental relief, but landlords who, by the way, are with property management companies who buy off city government, i.e. gentrification. Where is that money? And excuse me, isn't it kind of scandalous that all we have heard from the federal government and by their accomplices in the media is, we've been protecting tenants during this moratorium, eviction moratorium. Hey, we're not actually going to look into the details that this thing is flakier than Frosty Flakes.
I wish that I could say this is abnormal, but you go back to houses, in 2008 and 2009, and you saw liar's loans, and you saw them scamming paperwork and forging people's signatures and taking people's property. That same scandal is going on today. And it's even worse because at the state level, within these kind of environments, what you've got is they're looking to gentrify. They're looking to raise those rents. They're looking to get people out of these homes, and they are backstopped by the government. A lot of these people, these landlords, they're never losing a penny. They're going to be made whole. And what's worse is BlackRock is in the process of buying up properties all across America to turn us into a renting nation. And if you think about that, look at what's happening right now to all these people with just this 10% number, with the moratorium, 10%. Imagine what little teeny protections are there, what little teeny veneer of protection is there. Imagine what happens when a cutthroat joint like BlackRock has got so many rental properties and so many people attached to that. And if they don't pay their rent, etc., we are headed for calamity that I don't think anybody's really ready for. They're certainly not talking about it. And thank God for you, Jordan, that you are. We do a show called The New Untouchables, where we talk about all this fraud that's going on behind the scenes. And it is every step along the way. And it's included in the states, the local municipalities who inflate the asset values. And this is what these homeowners are seeing. The asset value is raised, and they're renting it at what was the prior appraisal value. Now the house is worth more, so they're trying to get that higher rent. Those people are on the hook for the lower rent. Get them out of there so they can hire someone into the higher rent. And it is just going to keep going on and on and on. And I'm going to I will not slow down on hammering this. People will still click clickbait. They will still click infotainment, and they will leave these people homeless while they go around. And maybe it's because they can't understand. They don't want to deal with the depravity of the world because it's too painful. So maybe this is like a drug of sorts to avoid looking at it. I don't know. But you can't say that for the media. The media not covering it is a crime against humanity, because these people have got no voice to begin with. They're already the most vulnerable. And then to not cover it at all, that's insanity. That's criminal.
Well, no, they're covering it up. That's what they're doing. They're covering it up.
I mean, they're not covering
because these,
it, though.
by the way, every single person that I spoke to, well, not every, most of the people that we interviewed have reached out to the media. So it's not like the media is not aware that people were being evicted during the pandemic. It's not like they're not aware that landlords are literally pocketing money meant for rental relief and then kicking mostly poor, a lot of Black, Hispanic, poor whites into the streets